moving on to our next guest. When you sit in a public place and just people watch, it quickly becomes very apparent that etiquette is not what it used to be in our society. Joining us now to talk about why that might be and what we can do to improve our etiquette is a good friend to all of our programs here on Civic Center TV and MyTV, Stacey Amy, the etiquette guru. Stacey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
So, people often complain that things aren't as good as they once were in many facets of life. Sometimes that's true, sometimes it isn't. But one thing that I can safely say is truly as bad as it's ever been is etiquette. Why have we seemingly lost our way in the department of having good manners?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I only know the fix for it. There's a lot to be upset about right now in our country and our world, but people need to get back to it, being kind to one another. It is lost. People watch too, and it's so upsetting to me, just as a person, not because of the etiquette, but just people don't understand that it's kind of a tricky thing. When you are not nice to people and nasty and things like that, your body receives that at the cellular level, what your emotions are, what your mind is doing. And if it's filled with negativity, you're only hurting yourself. So just getting back to the basics of just little simple things, smiling at one another, offering your hand, open a door, saying thank you when people show you a kindness, being aware of what your actions are doing, what you're doing, and how it may impact someone else. I think that's important. And I can't say it enough. If somebody is doing something around you that is aggravating, before you get to that point where you're so angry that it's not going to come across well, say something. Just say, excuse me, I can't see. Could you please sit down? Or something like that before you get to that point where you're hurting yourself with negativity.
So, Stacey, one place that you can go where you certainly see a lot of bad etiquette is when you're eating out at a restaurant. I mean, let's go right from the start of when you arrive at a restaurant. If you're meeting someone, should you wait for them to get there or should you get seated first? What are the good etiquette rules as far as that's concerned?
I think anytime you can wait and be seated together, that's preferable. Of course, you're going to do what the restaurant is going to want you to do. If they want to seat you, that's fine. But you do not start eating if there's like a bread basket on the table. And you should keep your menu down and wait for your guest or guests to arrive. And the whole thing with eating out, it's kind of a song and dance between you and your servers. So basically, waiting for everybody. If it's a dinner party, and you have an actual host or hostess, you could look to them for your cues of when you would put your napkin in your lap and things like that. But basically, you're just waiting. Everybody's there. You're deciding on what you would like to eat from the menu. Everybody puts their menu down, and that signals to your server they're ready to order. And once that's all taken care of, and maybe your drinks are served, then it's appropriate to put your napkin in your lap. And if bread is served or your salad, of course, you begin eating.
So the topic of the napkin, which you referenced there, so is that how it works that you don't put the napkin in your lap until the food is served? Because I've seen some people, they sit down at the table and the first thing they do is put their napkin in their lap, or is that the proper way to do things?
Typically, you want to take care of business. So you want to get your meal ordered and have that be taken care of. And then you can relax a little. And if it's just you and your family, of course, you're going to put your napkin in your lap and wait for things to be served. But again, if you do have an actual host or hostess at a dinner party, you want to wait for them to address the napkin before you do.
Now, let's suppose you have to get up from the table, perhaps use the restroom. Where do you, and your napkin was in your lap, and then you pick your napkin up. Where do you put your napkin as you go to the restroom or leave the table?
Sure. So you stand up and put your napkin on your chair. And you can also put your utensils in we call it at rest with your knife and fork in a V. And that tells your server, oh, they're coming back to their meal and not to clear their plate. So you put your napkin in your lap, you go to the restroom and come back, put your napkin, I'm sorry, you put your napkin on your chair and, go to the restroom, make a phone call, whatever you're needing to do, and come back and put it on your lap. And only when you're completely finished eating, your napkin comes up on the side. This is debatable. I've seen it both ways. But typically to the right side, lay your napkin and push in your chair when you leave.
So sometimes people be thrust into a situation where they're at a fine dining restaurant that maybe they're not used to going to, and then you sit down and there's a plethora of utensils there that you might not be used to seeing. There's several forks, several spoons. Is it best to just, if you don't know what to do, to ask someone, or because a lot of people will just pick one up and just kind of guess?
Again, if you have a host or hostess, watch them and what they're doing. Otherwise, just a little tip, start from the outside and move in. So you start with those utensils furthest away from the plate and move in if the table is set that way, because things you're going to see it 100 different ways in your lifetime. But typically, if you have 3 forks on your left side, the first fork is going to be a salad fork. In America, that's typically what we start with.
So at the end of dinner, it's always when the bill comes. It's sometimes if you're with friends that you're sort of close to, but not really close to, it's always kind of that thing of, do we all just kind of pass the bill around? Do we try to pay half? What's the good etiquette in dealing with a bill when it comes?
So the bill, I think, as much as you can get ahead of that, that's to your benefit to, kind of curtail any kind of awkward feelings. It doesn't have to be awkward. So what I mean is, if you are inviting someone to eat up front, you're telling them, would you like to join me Dutch treat? And then that's taken care of, or it's my treat. But if it's not established beforehand, when you're ordering, you could say, can we have separate checks? And if not, when the check comes, you can just say, if nobody wants to treat, then yes, of course, you're just, oh, I forgot how much my meal was. Can I look at that bill too? If someone is insistent on paying, let them. Don't get into a big argument. You can say, well, okay, that's fine. Can I get the tip? Or then I'll treat next time, something like that. And it does just, don't let it be uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be. If people are all kind of looking to one another, not sure what to do, you take the reins. I think when people are uncertain, if somebody takes the lead, it makes everybody else relax. So you can always try that too. You know the right thing to do, and you're not trying to, rip anybody off or anything like that. So it's all good. And if it's friends, just, it should be a relaxed situation. Don't let it get uncomfortable. It shouldn't have to be.
So if you witness poor etiquette from others, and maybe it's they may be rude to a server or something like that. I mean, can you bring that up at that point, or should you just kind of wait till the meal's over and maybe never see those people again, or bring it up to them at that point?
Yeah, I kind of shy away from that. I think if you're, going to be reprimanding somebody or scolding them, that's going to be on you, and you're going to look bad. I mean, unless they are blatantly abusive to somebody, I think then I would step in and, just say, don't do that. Something, simple like that, but I'm not going to scold anybody. Unless it's in my own family, like if one of my children would have done something very rude, of course, I would address it and bring her my husband, I would say something to them, but to other friends, I probably would let it go. And if it was that terrible, I won't be dining with them again.
So, Stacy, I just want to quickly bring up. So, I was at the Lions game this past week, and I was sitting right on the aisle, and we knew a bunch of people would be coming in and out of the aisle, but it's the percentage of people that say "excuse me" when they're trying to get by you, and you have to make a huge effort to let them by. It's got to be like 20%. And what are your thoughts on that? Like, why can't people just be polite, even though you're at a sporting event?
I just think people have forgotten themselves. And again, you're not going to school anybody. You're going to come across as the one who has a problem there. It's going to be provoking people. So I think you can only start with yourself and you behave the proper way and not being sarcastic to those types of people. You know, there's the people that will say you're welcome or something like that.
Yes.
It doesn't really help anything. And truly, again, at that cellular level, it's harming you. So I think unless people can get a hold of themselves and realize how important what they do, how it impacts other people, realize that again, you can only protect yourself and just let it roll off your back. There's really nothing else you can do unless they're physically in your space or, you know, touching you in some way or crowding you. Then of course you have every right. And, but as I said, try to say something before you get to the point where you're so angry that it's going to be a problem, you know. And that's the best thing I can suggest. Just you know, people can't make other people see things until they see it themselves. And yes, there's a problem in society, definitely. But just, you know, trying your best to maintain yourself is the best thing I can suggest.
Well, Stacy, we want to thank you so much for your insight and keeping our etiquette up to snuff. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a nice day.